Välkommen allesammans. Today we are going through the archaeological museums in Crete, Greece, Heraklion, and Rethymnon to explore the Minoan civilization and religion. The last video I did showed of some of the similarities between Minoan and Nordic Bronze Age civilization, and how we can use this to fill in the blanks that we don't know about this time period, because the Bronze Age is actually my favorite time period in history. It's actually not the Viking Age, and it is my mission to reconstruct not just Bronze Age religion, but a Bronze Age Nordic society. This is my life goal with the land we will be buying and the village we will be building on it in the future. So we'll get into this video, but guys, if you want to stay updated on all these things, I encourage you to follow anywhere else, Instagram, Facebook, or even TikTok. I post there every day pretty much. YouTube, I don't even care about anymore. I post maybe once a month. They're not even suggesting my videos to my followers these days. So if you guys are one of the loyal followers here, and you've been here for a while seeing my videos and you want to stay updated on the stuff we're working on, I hope you'll follow me on the other platforms as well. I also have a book out now and blog posts weekly with a ton of education, so I still provide all that stuff for people for free who want to learn things about the Norse religion. But for YouTube, it's not simply worth my time anymore, so I'm only going to make videos here about the things that are fun for me, and this is it. Chasing the dying YouTube algorithm is not worth it anymore, and this is what I'm interested in. Travel, seeing these sacred sites around the world, and uncovering the lost beliefs of Europe by using comparative, related religious studies. So, the Bronze Age Minoans. These were the most advanced people of the Bronze Age in the world, but when you look closely, a lot of their artifacts remind me of Norse and other Northern European traditions. The Bronze Age civilizations of Europe were not all that different, and they were not separated by all that much space. So let's dive in. First, the animal pottery. You see bulls everywhere here, often with horns. No surprise there, cattle were sacred in both cultures. In the Norse tradition, much later on from the Viking Age though, but cattle symbolized wealth, fertility, and represented by the rune fehu. Herds and livestock were central to life both in Scandinavia in the Viking Age and Bronze Age. We even see artwork of cattle, and of course Minoan Crete. Next, the bull leaping frescoes that show men vaulting over bulls. It's probably for a sport or some sort of ritual. While Scandinavians may not have leapt over bulls like this in the Bronze Age, later Viking sagas describe animal contests like horse fighting, games involving bulls, and kind of rodeo-like things in the Viking Age. So both cultures saw livestock not just as wealth, but part of spectacle and entertainment and community gathering. Then we have this. One of the most famous Minoan artworks is this mosaic of this tall, broad-shouldered man with long hair. It could be what Minoans look like, not necessarily that, but at least we can say it was their ideal. So probably a ruler or a priest king of Knossos, the scholars have interpreted this man to be. Norse mythology also preserves the echoes of kings serving as priests and leading rituals. While Scandinavia never produced any art like this during the Bronze Age, the role of sacred kingship appears in both cultures. Although it seems to be gone by the Viking Age, but like I said, when we look at the mythology, not just Norse but all around Europe, kings seem to be at one point in charge of religious ritual, so I think this was also the case during the Nordic Bronze Age. Clay men, jewelry, elephant tusks. Here we see the jewelry and talismans. That's universal. We find that in places all over the world. But in Norse culture specifically, amulets we find made from antler, bone, and even human remains. The Ribe skull fragment is just one example dated to about 2,000 years ago, and it mirrors the types of things we find here in Minoan civilization. Goat headdresses. Very interesting. The goat horn headdress recalls traditions all across Northern Europe. Sami, shaman-like people wearing antler headgear into the 1800s. We find artifacts just like this from the Viking Age depicting what we think are religious leaders or Odin leading some sort of warrior ritual. Even some similar artifacts from Bronze Age Denmark that you see here. And finally, the Växjö helmets. These suggest, ceremonial horned helmets on headdresses, and that is a tradition that stretches back nearly 10,000 years in Europe, all the way from Neolithic times, wearing these, which you can see at the British Museum here. Next, we see a model of their house and also what the Palace of Knossos looked like. Minoan architecture was of course light years ahead of Scandinavia at the time. They had stone palaces, multi-story homes, and even advanced plumbing and running water through their cities. Nothing would appear like that in Europe until medieval castles 2,000 or 3,000 years later. It's just incredible what they built there. That's just interesting. Then we see some of the weapons. Bronze spears were the most common weapon in Crete, just like in Scandinavia, and daggers were also widespread. We also see sword fragments and shield bosses in Minoan Crete. The domed boss in the center of a shield is exactly like we find from the Viking Age shields, but we don't have it that much in Bronze Age Scandinavia. Of course, the shields are going to be hard to preserve all that time, but it's fascinating to see them here in Minoan Crete. Possible evidence of shared ideas and warfare equipment. A shield that they could also punch with too, basically. But the iconic Minoan weapon that we see here is the double axe. This was probably not used in combat. It was most likely for ritual linked to sacrifices and to the gods. It was left as offerings in some places and used to slaughter the animal in other places and sacrifices. Scholars have compared it to Thor's hammer, and they may have even been a similar Minoan god wielding it to Thor. A divine symbol as much as a tool is, this double axe or hammer. Clay figurines, very interesting there. Many of these clay figures are found in a pose of worship, okay? Look how cool that is. Arms raised or crossed out in front of them like this. This may reflect how people prayed or meditated in the Bronze Age. We don't know much about posture in northern rituals, but we do have some artwork and Bronze Age figurines from Denmark showing similar poses, and it might give us clues about ritual stances, not just common in Scandinavia and Bronze Age Mediterranean, but all across Europe. So this is something that we can really use to recreate the religious practices of this time. I don't know, have any of you guys tried meditating in this pose or praying? Let us know. Pottery and gold jewelry. Crete was so rich, there's gold everywhere, intricately crafted necklaces, belts, ornaments. Scandinavia, of course, has much less gold from the Bronze Age, but the style of jewelry is comparable. The Viking Age Scandinavians, thousands of years later, produced also elaborate gold and bronze pieces that look surprisingly similar to these. Purification vessels. These vessels held water for ritual washing before you would enter temples. We see this all over ancient Greece and ancient Rome too, so we know that it was very important in the Mediterranean to wash yourself before you entered a temple or did a sacrifice or came before the gods at all. There's no clear Norse source about ritual washing like this, but it wouldn't be surprising if similar purification practices existed in Northern Europe during the Bronze Age and Viking Age. It's just a general good practice to bring into your spirituality anyway, washing yourself before any important work is done. Here we find a rattle. It's a percussion tool for ritual. Rattles appear in nearly every animist religion worldwide. Norse people likely used something similar, just like you see here, iron rods with hooked bracelet type things that they would shake. This was found in the Oseberg ship. Same purpose as in all cultures that rattles were used for, to shake up and loosen the energy around before some sort of religious ritual. Later on, the god statues, some of these date from after the Bronze Age, of course. Classical Greece, Roman antiquity, they show gods, heroes, priestesses. I wish we had Norse statues like this, but either they didn't make them at all in Scandinavia, or they were just all destroyed at one point, or they were made out of wood and they didn't last the ages. But we do have smaller statues remaining, just not as intricate. Also, another stop if you are on Crete, just up the coast is the smaller museum of Rethymnon. Rethymnon, it shows similar artifacts, double axes, daggers, bull figurines, jewelry, goddesses in ritual poses. But one highlight, which was my favorite, is the spindle whorl that was found in a cave sanctuary. So most of these sacred places in Crete were either on mountaintops or caves. Deep caves just like this one that I'm in here right now. They were places of worship and connection to the earth goddess. They had sacrifices there, and this spindle whorl was found in this cave dating back to the Bronze Age. I always say that spinning and weaving are the most spiritual things that you can do. They were sacred in Scandinavia too, tied to fate and prophecy, of course. Norse sagas are full of references to women weaving. It's not a whole lot about the Norns weaving fate, as we have many misconceptions of, but plenty of other magical practices are recorded involving this. You can read all about that in my book in just one chapter that's restocked now. There's also a tombstone found here with unknown symbols that remarkably look like runes. I think they have deciphered this, but I don't know enough about it to speak on it. So yeah, whether that's a coincidence or some sort of connection is very interesting. Did maybe the Bronze Age Scandinavian have some sort of... They didn't have an alphabet, but did they maybe have some sort of markings and symbols with meaning other than what we find on their artwork? And my favorite from here, this museum, the bent swords. Weapons that were deliberately bent during ritual. We don't fully know why. Was it ritual sacrifice? Was it like decommissioning the weapons? Were they honoring a chieftain, their burial? Or was it something much, much deeper? But that mirrors practices found in Northern Europe too. There's a lot of bent swords found in Viking Age archaeological finds. There's something very interesting there that we don't quite have the answer to, but there are some theories. So, hope you enjoyed. For the next video, I will be going to Greece, the museum in Athens, and showing you guys a little bit about there. And yeah, some other fun things to come on YouTube. Just things that I enjoy doing. But if you would like the traditional Norse sources and education, the blog is the best place, or the book, or like I said, posting every day on all the other socials. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching and being a loyal follower for so long. Vi ses nästa gång.